Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
So this morning's service is about our St. John's heritage, our legacy, and about homecoming. So you're going to see that theme resonate throughout our service today. And also very excited brats and mets afterwards, and Krollpfeifer, and hot cider too. So Mitra doesn't know what she's missing. All right, we'll go ahead and begin service. Please join us for hymn 188.
All right, we're going to sing it through once, and then the second time we're going to do it as a round. It'll be awesome. This will be 1, 2, we split it down the middle, 2, 3, 4. All right? And if it crashes and burns, we'll have a great time doing it. Okay, one time through all together.
That was great. Please join me in our chalice lighting words. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together, we care for the church and each other.
Guten Morgen und herzlich willkommen. Good morning. My name is Ravensong, and I promise the rest will be in English. It's my pleasure to welcome you to St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church. St. John's is proud to be a welcoming congregation, and as such, we honor and value the racial, economic, cultural, age, physical ability, sexual orientation, and gender diversity of our members and our visitors. Know that wherever you are in your journey and however you are feeling today, you are welcome here, and we are happy that you chose to be with us. A special welcome to visitors this morning. I invite you to stop by the welcome table in our lobby and to join us for refreshments and conversation in our fellowship hall after the service. There are a lot of great things happening at St. John's. Please take a look at the announcements in your order of service. You may also want to check the bulletin board in our social hall for additional events and things to do. As a reminder, please turn off or silence your cell phones for the worship today. Thank you.
Please join us now for hymn number 291, Die Gedanken sind frei. Oh,
Close. Close. D. Die Gedanken sind frei, just to break the promise that everything else will be in English. So, Die Gedanken sind frei, and I would like to point out it was a German folk song. You can decide whether it was once sung with beer steins in your hands or not, but sing it good and loud. Die Gedanken sind frei. Okay?
Please join me in our affirmation. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. At this time in our service, we invite you to come up and place a stone in the sand for any joys, concerns, celebrations, or sorrows that you may have in your heart today. If you have any joys or concerns you'd like to share with the community, please pass those and leave those on the table, and I will read those aloud after the stone ceremony. This morning I chose a stone for those concerns that were not expressed today. May those worries and concerns that lie deep within our hearts soon be resolved and allow us to experience lasting peace. I'll invite Raven Song up now for our reading.
The title of this piece is Call from the Past, Present, and Future, and it was written by Tanya Marquez. Call from the past. From the heights of the Andes, the jungle, and the desert, from the depth of the sea, from a time that was, from a time that stretches beyond our memory, we are called. Call from the present. The voices of our people call us now. The world harbors their joys and their sorrows. We hear the cries of our people demanding justice. In that call, we recognize the voices of those who wander in the desert, the border crossers, the navigators, the justice seekers, the dreamers, and the hopeful. We weave our story to the story of our ancestors, right here, right now. We are in the midst of responding to the call that comes from all the corners of this land, from the south, the north, the east, and the west. We are called to sustain the work. Call from the future. The voices of those who will be call us, a reminder of who we need to be. In the weaving of our story to the web of life, we must remember that we must not cut the strings, for there are others coming after us, others with tender hearts and strong wills, with creative determination, those who will live in the house of tomorrow. Their vision escapes us, yet we are called to prepare the road, to leave behind possibility and foundations upon which they'll build a better tomorrow. We are called to create new opportunities.
Thank you, Raven Song. That was awesome. During this offertory period, we ask that you give what the Spirit moves you to give. Your contribution is extremely important to St. John's mission in our community. Thank you for that extended piece. I mean, how fortunate are we to have a mini recital every Sunday? Just fantastic. Now I'm going to ask Debbie Combs, equally fantastic, to talk about our St. John's history.
Good morning. It's great to be here on this sunny day. We had a wonderful service on August 28th at the Transept, St. John's former home at 12th and Elm Streets and over the Rhine. It was exciting to be in that building and think about those who came before us. I looked at parts of the old sanctuary and wondered what was original, who may have touched this or walked there. I gave a talk about a year ago concentrating on Reverend Kroll and Reverend Eisenlohr, a period between 1840 and 1930. They're credited with influencing the liberal church St. John's became. Today, I'll fill in some holes. Now that we have this wonderful AV system, you can look at pictures that will help you imagine our history. In 1839, while the congregation was located at the 6th Street Church, you know, having a sunny day is nice, but it doesn't help with pictures. But if you want to see this picture, it's actually right below us in the library, as probably all these pictures are. Anyway, so, and on 6th Street in 1839, St. John's first appeared in the name of the church when the name was changed to German St. John's Church. They dropped Lutheran and Reformed from the church's name, indicating an independent Protestant church. During the 1830s, there were 2 splits in the congregation and 5 ministers. The Reverend Kroll was called in 1841 while the congregation was located on 6th Street, and he brought a period of stability and prosperity and remained at St. John's until his death in 1874. Last year, I talked about St. John's outgrowing the 6th Street Church because of Reverend Kroll's liberal views. The congregation decided to move to over the Rhine because the German community was moving there. OTR is such a popular area now, I'm sure you know it's bordered on the west and the south by Central Parkway. And Central Parkway was the Miami and Erie Canal. When people crossed the canal, it was said they were crossing the Rhine, referring to the river in Germany. A year ago, I talked about the Reverend Eisenlohr, who became St. John's minister in 1884. He's important because he influenced the congregation to affiliate with the American Unitarian Association in 1924. If you were at the Transept on August 28th, you may have picked up a brochure like this. It's called In Their Words, and I have more if anyone wants one. And it contains the words of Reverend Kroll, Reverend Eisenlohr, and Reverend Kroll-Pfeiffer, the 3 ministers who served at the 12th and Elm Street Church. At the Transept, I mentioned the Reverend J. Carl Schultz, who was the minister between Reverend Kroll and Reverend Eisenlohr. I said we didn't know anything about Reverend Schultz, but that's not exactly true. In the history files, we have folders for all our settled ministers except Reverend Schultz. A couple of days after our service at the Transept, I took David Mass to a physical therapy appointment. I gave him one of these brochures about the ministers at 12th and Elm. I explained that Reverend Schultz isn't in the brochure because we have nothing written by him. I described the little bit I remembered reading about Reverend Schultz. Then David said something like, "Oh, we're not going to talk about that?" Or at least that's what I heard. It may have simply been his inquiring mind. I decided to look for information about Reverend Schultz that I had read a number of years ago. After talking with David, I thought it was time to share his story. Here's how Reverend Eisenlohr described Reverend Schultz's time at St. John's. The choice of the congregation fell on Reverend J.C. Schultz, and he took over the pastorate in March 1875. Unfortunately, Schultz was not the outspoken knight of liberalism that Kroll had been. He vacillated between a moderately liberal and an orthodox standpoint. Soon, a process of disintegration set in. There was no open revolt, no split in the church, but gradually, quite a number of the better families withdrew quietly to seek other pastures. During this time, the Dr. Charles Wendt was minister of the Unitarian Church, and being well able to speak the German language attracted quite a number of the most influential families of the church to his congregation. I would not, however, be understood as intimating that Dr. Wendt deliberately sought out to take members away from the old church. They felt themselves repulsed by the attitude of Reverend Schultz, whose theological standpoint was neither fish nor flesh, but was rather inclined to favor that of the evangelical churches. And after many years of ministry of Reverend Kroll, this did not satisfy them. Other difficulties arose, and after a ministry of about 9 years, he was forced to resign very suddenly. Of course, the question becomes, why did he resign very suddenly? So, the following is from church council minutes. They were written in German and translated to English, and it's possible there were misinterpretations. And have you ever tried to read script from the 1800s? Very difficult. So the quotes I'm going to give you are from 1884. March 5th. An honorable lady member sent an accusation against Reverend Schultz, accusing him of insulting her. She demands a thorough investigation. Committee appointed. August 4th. 4 members, including 3 ladies, accused the pastor of immoral behavior. He is to appear before the board to face the accusers and defend himself. Now, I want to make a little editorial comment here. I mean, in those times, who knows what immoral behavior was? I mean, maybe he asked to see their ankle or something. I don't know. Anyway, so he was asked to come before the board. August 6th, Reverend Schultz did not appear before the board, but sent a letter. And this is an excerpt from the letter. I have often wished to resign, but prefer a secure job to an insecure one. But my eyes are getting weaker, and therefore I offer my resignation. My family and I desire to go to Germany. Please grant me good credentials, as I may need them to get a job there or here if I return. Church Council, accepted with regrets. The Council's letter to Reverend Schultz. As Reverend Schultz intends to return to Germany, we, the church officers, hereby grant him this certificate. A good pulpiteer, participated in Sunday school work, and successfully aided in the progress of the congregation. We also owe his wife thanks for her services. We wish him and his family God's blessing. So that's all that we have in the files about Reverend Schultz, and now you know as much as I do. All right, so moving on. Reverend Hugo Eisenlohr was serving in a church in Wheeling, West Virginia, and became St. John's next minister. He was called without the congregation ever hearing him speak. The congregation knew him by reputation because they knew his father, Reverend Gustav Eisenlohr. The congregation had met in the senior Reverend Eisenlohr's church, while the 12th and Elm Street Church was being built. The senior Reverend Eisenlohr and St. John's Reverend Kroll were good friends and had worked together on a German Protestant newspaper. When Reverend Hugo Eisenlohr arrived, he found the congregation disorganized and in debt. Part of the congregation was Orthodox, others remembered Kroll and his liberal views. The membership list was a mess. The church council thought they were about 350 members. As it turned out, the number was a little less than 200. With Reverend Eisenlohr's leadership, the debt was eliminated, membership increased, and stability returned. Another question that's come up in the past is, why did St. John's move from over the Rhine in 1946? Some have wondered if it was white flight. It was flight, but not from the African American community who hadn't moved to over the Rhine yet. They were living in the West End. The African American community moved to OTR when the building of Interstate 75 destroyed their homes and their community in the 1950s. The German community could afford to move from the basin into the surrounding hills, where it was a little cooler and away from industry. A member during that time period described the OTR neighborhood as deteriorating and made going to church a security risk. Meetings had to end before darkness. The older women who came on the streetcar to 12th and Vine Streets had to come in groups for personal safety. Now here's how the Over the Rhine Foundation describes the neighborhood, and you can find this on their website. Over the Rhine remained a vibrant working-class neighborhood in the early 20th century. But as improved public transportation and automobiles made it easier for working-class families to live in their surrounding hilltop neighborhoods, people who could afford to leave OTR's densely packed, small apartment buildings moved away. OTR's tenements increasingly became home to the working poor. Starting during the Depression, Over the Rhine saw the arrival of a new era of American-born immigrants. Appalachians left failing farmlands and coal fields in eastern Kentucky and Tennessee for industrial work in Cincinnati, often to industries located in OTR and its neighboring communities. Because of its proximity to jobs and because they could afford the small cold water tenements that had come to characterize the neighborhood, OTR progressed into an era when the community became distinctly Appalachian. Although this period was predominantly defined by poverty, these residents epitomized the Appalachian culture. All right, so while Over the Rhine was still located, or while St. John's was still located in Over the Rhine, the Reverend Julius Krollpfeifer became minister in 1931. He was with the congregation during the move from OTR to Hanselman Masonic Temple up on Clifton Avenue. That was St. John's temporary location for 6 years. When the congregation was located there, they had church picnics across the street at Burnet Woods. Reverend Krollpfeifer stayed through 1955, and he preached in what we now call the Krollpfeifer Fellowship Hall. And he was St. John's last German minister. So we were given so much from those who came before us. Today, let's celebrate our German heritage. I know Rita has been hoping for a beautiful day like today for brats and mets that she, I think, wanted to do one other time, but the weather wasn't good. So we have a great day, we have no rain, and we can have a picnic just like congregations in the past. Thank you.
So I know I told the choir we were going to sing after the sermon, but it seems like it fits here a little better. So I would invite the choir up and I will introduce this piece. The choir is going to be singing a piece, Es ist das Heil uns kommen her. It's a good Lutheran piece. And there's a version out there from Bach, but we're going to sing the Johannes Brahms version, okay? So I want to share with you all. I lived in Germany for 2 years as a missionary for the Mormon Church. Picked up some German while I was there a little bit, but 20 years I've forgotten it, but still. I want to share with you these words that we're going to be singing today so that you can see, again, as was mentioned in the history, Lutheran foundations, and you can kind of see where we've maybe moved to from this. So, es ist das Heil uns kommen her. It is our salvation come here to us. Von Gnade und lauter Güte, full of grace and pure goodness. Die Werke, die helfen nimmermehr. Deeds can never help. Sie mögen nicht behüten. They cannot protect us. Der Glaub sieht Jesum Christum an. Faith beholds Jesus Christ. Der hat genug für uns all getan. He has done enough for us all. Ist der Mittler worden. He has become the intercessor. We are going to sing this with all the gusto that we can muster, but it is a lovely piece. So.
Thanks to the choir for that. It's very fitting. So our theme today is not just about our home, our heritage, but also about our home. Our home as a community, homecoming, coming back to St. John's. Today we not only celebrate our German heritage, but we also welcome new members and old members to our St. John's home. Since COVID started 2.5 years ago, it has been a long time since we've seen some of our congregation. We have all joined on this day to welcome each other home. Today we gather to extend our hands and our hearts to receive and embrace one another. Thank you to our regular members, new members, and visitors for joining us today in this celebration of our church heritage. You are all special guests today, and we welcome you. This homecoming occasion is not only an observance of our German heritage, but a jamboree dedicated to each person in this room today. Wherever we are gathered as a congregation, you are home. Make yourself comfortable because this is where you belong. Our St. John's founders sought to create one place where we could gather to celebrate life, love, and peace and justice for all. One place where we could all feel a sense of belonging. We see this in our 7 principles that we affirm and promote. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregation. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large. The goal of the world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And finally, respect for the independent web of all existence of which we are part. With these principles and our rich history as a congregation, I ask each of you to remember our past so it may guide us into a bountiful future. Remember that no matter where you live, St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church is also your home. It is a place where you can be free from the distractions of the outside world and be one with this family. With like thoughts in our minds and love in our hearts, we share this special day as a united community of believers. So at this moment, I would like to invite up Sarah for a membership moment.
Good morning. Making sure it's actually still morning when I say that. My name is Sarah Jersenko, and I've been a member of St. John's since August 2021, along with my husband Jonathan and our 2 children, Athena and Elijah. Finding a home here at St. John's was a long and at times spiritually lonely road. I had visited UU services once or twice as a child, but knew little to nothing about the practice. It would take years of wading through non-denominational megachurches, fundamentalist house services, and periods of no church at all to realize what had been missing all along: Unitarian Universalism, and specifically the St. John's family. Going back a little to my childhood, growing up with the dogma of the Southern Baptist Church, I never quite fit in. My favorite Bible story wasn't one of fire and brimstone, of a God full of wrath and might, but that of Esther, a seemingly ordinary woman whose faith in an unnamed God saved her people through direct action and the power of relationships. Throughout my childhood and young adult years, I took comfort in the idea that one person, one woman, could rise against an unjust system to become her own hero. This theme would provide strength and guidance as I stumbled from one version of Protestant Christianity to another, finding fleeting moments of comfort and worship, but always feeling as if I was falling short in my faith in humanity. As the years progressed, our family's views were always just a little too liberal, too feminist, and too loud to fall in line. I was on this spiritual road in the early stages of embracing goddess worship when my therapist recommended finding a nearby UU church to visit. From our first visit to St. John's via Zoom due to the pandemic, a sense of relief and belonging overtook our household. Not only were we warmly greeted and welcomed, but we immediately recognized the diverse and socially conscious tapestry that makes up St. John's. Since day one, there has never been a question of fitting in, never a sense that we would have to dampen our views to fit the church, in fact, quite the opposite. We have been challenged to be greater activists, strengthen our convictions, and do more to advocate and push for social justice and change. Within months of our first service, there was no doubt to be found, St. John's was and is our home. Jonathan and I knew that not only was this a vibrant, safe place to raise our family, but one day it will give our children the tools and grace to define their faith for themselves. Becoming part of the St. John's family has been a classic example of not knowing what you're missing out on until you experience it. This beautiful, kind, outspoken congregation is everything our small family needed in a spiritual home. So thank you to St. John's as a community for not only welcoming all souls of every race, sexuality, gender identity, creed, and class, but for challenging each of us to do the same in our everyday lives. You all have made a difference in my life and without a doubt the world at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. We have many announcements today, and if I leave anything out, let me know. Let's see. Bill, you want to come up first?
Thank you so much to Sarah. Good morning. I'm speaking to you today as co-chair of the Capital Campaign, the Continue the Legacy campaign. What will it take for us to reach our goal of $1 million? For our congregation, it will take all of us chipping in with our money and our time. We need you to give generously. How will that happen? Members of St. John's will contact each individual member or family to talk about their commitment to St. John's. Those who will make the visits to have these hour-long conversations are called stewards. It's been many years since St. John's has done a one-on-one stewardship campaign, and so it feels new. But now it is time to gear up to do this again. It's going to take nearly 40 stewards to do this. That's a lot of folks. Joetta and I have been reaching out to ask folks to do this volunteer work. What's keeping me up at night, and I'm serious about that, is that we have currently less than half the number we need. This campaign really can't happen and be successful without a lot more people coming forward and being willing to say yes. Last week, I sent out a second email recruiting stewards. This is a short response I got just yesterday. Bill, just returning from out of the country. Yes, I will do it. This is not something I'm comfortable with doing, but I think most people feel that way, and it needs to happen. So I will do my best. Joetta and I need 40 people like that person. Some folks have said no, perhaps fearing that it will require too much time or knowledge about how to ask for money. I'm here to tell you that if we get enough stewards, the work will amount to about 8 to 10 hours total over a 6 weeks period, ending at Thanksgiving. Many of you probably have 8 to 10 hours that you could volunteer for St. John's. I bet you can. If, like the person in the email I just read, you don't feel comfortable, we understand. As for not knowing how to do this task, that's why we have an expert guiding us. Rachel Maxwell from Stewardship for Us will conduct the training and provide well-honed orientation training materials. You'll be talking to your friends and fellow congregants about why you love St. John's. Our team, Joetta, Monica Pellman, Nancy Johnson, and I, will be there to support you and answer your question. You can do this. So here's the deal. If we have asked you to help and you have said yes, thank you. If you have said no, if you have not said yes yet, please do it now. For those who have already said no because they have busy lives, I'm still asking you to help. It's not too late for you to change your mind and say yes now. This campaign can't happen unless you come forward to help. If we haven't yet asked you to help and you are willing, please let us know. Reach out to me or Joetta soon so that we can provide more information. Questions are, of course, welcome. Let's continue the legacy. Remember, it's our turn.
Thank you, Bill. Mary Lynn?
So as we heard in Debbie's history this morning, sharing bread, breaking bread together, sharing a meal is part of our heritage and our tradition. So that is why it is so great that it is Soup and Partner Church Soup and Bread lunchtime again. So in 2 weeks on October 16th is our first Soup and Bread partner lunch. And our partner church program is a valuable part of who we are and what we do. Our lunches and meals together are a beloved tradition. And how this works is you just sign up to bring a big pot of soup or bread, and then we all gather together and pay $6 and get an incredible homemade lunch, and the money goes to our partner church in St. Laszlo and does a tremendous amount of good. So I hope you all are as excited as me that we're back, and the board is up in the lobby. If you do get a chance, sign up today, because we have 2 weeks to sort it out, and you want to make sure you get a chance to make some soup. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. Edie handed me a flyer here for an announcement for Light Eternal Honoring the Journey, which takes place Sunday, October 9th at 4 o'clock at Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church. It's a musical thing. Everybody should go. Also, Wanda wanted me to let everybody know that she will have a table in Crow-Pfeiffer every Sunday until the elections for you the vote. So if you want some more information, want to get involved, see her in Crow-Pfeiffer. There are a couple of other announcements, several other announcements in your bulletin, so please take a look at those. The flowers today were donated by Nancy Henry, remembering Phil Henry on his birthday. Thank you, Nancy. Earth Spirit is having a meeting after service today, about 12:45, after you've gotten your brats and mets, in the chapel. If you want to come, please do so. We invite everybody. This meeting will specifically be discussing the service that we'll be holding on the 30th. And then finally, the master planning team is announcing that there will be a congregational meeting October 9th. That's next Sunday, immediately following the service, and everybody is encouraged and asked to attend. Now, if you will join us in the hymn, the closing hymn, number 1014, Answering the Call of Love.
There was a discussion. Feel free when we get to the answering the call of love part. If you want to sing "Standing on the Side of Love," make your choice, and that's okay. They're both good. Okay, so answering the call of love, standing on the side of love, whatever one comes out, we'll accept it. Blessed
Before I start with the benediction, I need to thank a few folks today. I thank my wife Lori and Mike Nugent for being the food deliverers. While all of this has been going on, they've been lighting the grill and manning the grills, so we have something fresh and hot for you right after this service. So I want to get a shout out to them. If Mike looks a little haggard, he's been slaving over a hot grill for the last 45 minutes. The benediction today is not from someone of German heritage, but understands what native homeland means and ancestry means. This is called the Great Spirit Prayer by the Lakota Sioux chief Yellow Lark. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever hold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. Help me remain calm and strong in the face of all that comes towards me. Help me find compassion without empathy overwhelming me. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes. So when life fades, as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Thanks, everybody. Brats and Mets and Grillpfeifer, make it the best week ever.